Hello, Matthews Gatos here. Welcome to negative exponents and reciprocals. Let's get started. So I want to do a little calculator experiment to kind of come up with what's going on with these negative exponents. So you can see on the left-hand side of the table, I'm going to evaluate positive exponents with a base of 2. And on the right-hand side of the table, I'm going to evaluate negative exponents with a base of 2. So let's start with 2 to the 1 and 2 to the negative 1 and see what happens. So into my calculator, and I'm going to do 2 exponent 1, and then I'll do 2 exponent negative 1. I'm going to get a decimal, 0.5. I want to see, can I put that into a fraction? Math, frac, enter, and I get a half. So I'm going to record it as a half. So 2 to the exponent of 1 is 2. And 2 to the exponent of negative 1 was 0.5, but we turned that into a fraction of a half. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try 2 to the 2 and 2 to the negative 2. So 2 squared, 4, and 2 to the exponent of negative 2, and I get 0.25. Let's change that to a fraction. Math, frac, enter, and I get 1 over 4. Okay, so over here, 2 squared was 4, and 2 to the negative 2, 0.25, which turned into a fraction of 1 over 4. Oh, I'm starting to see there might be a pattern here. Let's look at the next one. So 2 to the exponent of 3 and negative 3. So 2 to the exponent of 3, 8, and 2 to the exponent of negative 3. And again, let's change that into a fraction. And I get 1 over 8. Okay, I'm definitely seeing a pattern. Are you? 1 over 8. So I'm going to guess 2 to the exponent of 4. I know that's 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times another 2 is 16. I'm going to guess it's 1 over 16. But just to be sure, let's check. So 2 exponent 4 and then negative 4. So 2 exponent 4 is 16. Got that one right. 2 to the exponent of negative 4, and I get 0.0625. Let's change that to a fraction, and I get 1 over 16. So yes, looks like I was right on that last one. So what do we think is happening to x to the negative n in general? Well, let's see a pattern here. When I had 2 to the 1, it was 2. 2 to the negative 1, the 2 went in the denominator. So 2 squared and 2 to the negative 2. When it was a negative 2, the 4 went in the denominator. So I'm squaring it, but it goes in the denominator. Negative 3. So 2 cubed is 8, but because it's negative, it goes in the denominator. So 2 to the negative 4, well, 2 to the 4 was 16, but because it was negative, it went in the denominator. So I think in general, x to the negative n means we're taking x to the n, but it goes in the denominator because it's negative. This actually is the negative exponent law. So x to the negative n becomes 1 over x to the n. So the negative tells you to take the reciprocal. In other words, it's putting it into the denominator, raising it to the n, but because it's a negative, it goes into the denominator. Now this can be said in the other way as well. If you have 1 over x to the negative n in the denominator, the negative tells me I can bring it up to the numerator, because this is really like over 1, but then my exponent will be positive. So with this, my tip is to make a negative exponent positive, you take the reciprocal of the base. Let's try some examples. So I just want to write this with a positive exponent. So 4 to the negative 3. With a positive exponent, I know it will be 4 cubed, but to make the negative exponent positive, since this is over 1, I flip it and it becomes 1 over 4 cubed. So it goes into the denominator. Let's try this one. Negative 1 over 8 to the negative 2. So to make a negative exponent positive, I take the reciprocal of the base, negative 8 over 1, and now my exponent is positive. Or I can just write this as negative 8 to the exponent of 2. Okay, what about this one here? We're going to go backwards this time. We're going to take a positive exponent and write it backwards with a negative exponent. So anytime you want to change between a positive and a negative exponent, you just simply take the reciprocal of the base, and 1 over 16 becomes 16 over 1. The 2 becomes a negative 2. Or I can just write that as 16 to the negative 2. If you're ever unsure about that, you can always go to your calculator and check. Let's check this just to see if they're equivalent. Is 1 over 16 squared the same as 16 to the negative 2? Let's check. So on my calculator, I'm going to go bracket 1 divided by 16, and then that was to the exponent of 2. I want to know if that is the same as 16 to the exponent of negative 2. And you can see they are in fact equal. So anytime you want to check that, you can just punch it into your calculator. Let's try another one. 9 cubed. So I want to take the reciprocal of the base. So 9 is really like 9 over 1. So to take the reciprocal, it would be 1 over 9, and then I can change it to a negative exponent. So now that we've seen how to switch and interchange between positive and negative exponents, let's use this to now evaluate. So 4 to the negative 3. To make the exponent positive, I take the reciprocal of the base, I flip it, and then it becomes positive. Now evaluate means I just want a number. So 1 over 4 cubed is the same as, like this, 1 over 4 cubed. So a quarter cubed is the same as 1 over 4 cubed, which is the same as 1 over 4 times 4 times 4, which is 64. And again, you can always check these on the calculator to see if you've done it correctly. Let's look at this one. I want to evaluate 2 over 3, 2/3 to the negative 2. So to make that exponent positive, I take the reciprocal of the base and raise it to the positive exponent, which just means that it's going to be 3 over 2 multiplied by 3 over 2, which is 9 over 4. That would be my final answer. So let me show you how you would check that on the calculator. So 2/3 to the negative 2. So I'm going to go bracket 2 divided by 3, bracket to the negative 2. And you get a decimal, which you can just math frac to change it into a fraction. And I see that I got it right. So I definitely want to be able to do this without using the calculator, but the calculator is very useful to help me check that. Okay, let's do one last one here. I want to evaluate 8 to the negative 2/3. So again, take the reciprocal of the base, which would just be 1 over 8, and then the exponent is positive. Now we did a whole video on how we deal with fractional exponents, so I know that the top number is my exponent, the bottom number is the index of my root. So I'm going to rewrite this as the cube root, so the bottom is always for the root, and then the top number is the exponent, so I'm going to square it. So the cube root of 1 over 8. Well, I know the cube root of 1 is 1. The cube root of 8 is 2, so that will be 1 over 2 squared, which is just 1 over 2 times 1 over 2, which is 1/4. This is probably one I would want to check on the calculator, so let me just show you one last check here to make sure that we're right. So 8 to the negative 2/3. So 8 to the exponent of negative 2 divided by 3, and I get 0.25, which I can turn into a fraction, and I get 1/4, so I know I did that correctly. So always want to keep things positive. When we get into applying all the exponent rules together, you're going to see we always want our final answer to have a positive exponent. So keep it positive. Another way of saying that would be turn that frown upside down. If we wanted to turn that frown upside down math style, we would just take the reciprocal and voila, it's flipped into a smile. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. It helps me reach more mathies in need of help. Thanks for watching, and see you for the next one.